Hello everyone! I think I told somebody that I would do a Hitchcock review this month, so here it is. Today we're going to take a look at Notorious. Released in 1946 and written by Ben Hecht, Notorious stars Ingrid Bergman as Alicia Huberman, who is approached by intelligence agent Devlin, Cary Grant, to help expose a group of Nazis hiding out in Brazil. En route to Rio, Alicia and Devlin develop feelings for each other, but just as their relationship is taking off, they find out her assignment is to cozy up to a friend of her disgraced father's, Alex Sebastian, played by Claude Rains, who used to be in love with her. This is the second of 3 films Ingrid Bergman made with Alfred Hitchcock. She co-starred the previous year in Spellbound, and in 1949 she starred in one of his less successful ventures, Under Capricorn. Cary Grant, of course, was Hitchcock's favorite leading man. In addition to Notorious, he also starred in Suspicion in 1941, To Catch a Thief in 1955, and North by Northwest in 1959. Surprisingly, though, considering that Hitchcock did have a preference for Englishmen with great voices, this is the only Hitchcock film that Claude Rains appeared in. He was in 5 episodes of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, but that's not quite the same thing. The film also features Madame Constantine as Alex's domineering mother and Louis Calhern as Devlin's boss. Hitchcock's oeuvre can be divided pretty evenly, with a few outliers, between what I like to think of as killer thrillers and international spy films. As a story about post-war espionage, Notorious falls into the latter category. In 1946, World War II was still very fresh on everyone's minds. While the organization being investigated here is never described outright as members of the dismantled Nazi Party, the audience is expected to draw the obvious conclusion. The film's focus, however, is not on action and intrigue, but on the frustrated romance between 2 complicated individuals. Alicia Huberman starts out as a defiant young woman with a drinking problem. She's chasing after a mad, frivolous lifestyle after her father's highly publicized conviction for treason against the United States. She supports the conviction, but she's annoyed that the police are watching her to see if she engages in any suspicious activity of her own. Devlin shows up as an uninvited guest at one of her parties, and I love this little touch. The camera stays behind him in his introductory scene. We can't see his expression, and while Alicia keeps addressing him, he says nothing. We later figure out that this is Devlin all over, studiously not revealing anything. He manages to convince her to go undercover, and soon a mutual attraction springs up. But he doesn't believe that her newfound sobriety will stick, and such a lack of confidence in her ability to change bothers her. Yet she can't be sure if that's how he truly feels, or if he's just saying that to keep his distance. He tries to keep his feelings toward her strictly professional, but her criticism, exchanging mockery for mockery, provokes him into taking action. They're allowed about 3 minutes to be happy together, this love scene famously skirting code regulations against any on-screen kiss lasting more than 3 seconds by craftily stringing together short kisses and bits of dialogue, and even in this moment, she's eager, but he's guarded. The romantic bubble bursts when Devlin is told her assignment, which is essentially to seduce Alex Sebastian and get inside his house so she can spy on his organization. The idea of her being used that way makes Devlin sick, but instead of telling her how he feels and how he defended her to his boss and asking her to turn the job down, he insults her because that's the easier thing to do. From that point on, Devlin and Alicia immerse themselves in the undercover act. When they meet to exchange intel, they pretend to exchange innocuous chit-chat, but they're also pretending with each other. He's professional and cold, and that makes her bitter, and they both say things that they don't really mean. They do what's required of them, disgusted with themselves, still wanting each other, but too hurt to admit it. It gets even worse when Alex wants to marry her, and Alicia is encouraged to go ahead with it. Gradually, they just let each other believe the worst. And that's what drives me kind of crazy about this film, the way they conceal their feelings to protect themselves. I'm a big fan of open and honest communication in a relationship, so I find this very frustrating, and some of the things they say to each other are downright cruel, and it makes me cringe. It's well acted, though. The bitterness is intense. As for their target, Alex Sebastian, he's a weak antagonist, but intentionally so. Claude Rains isn't playing an evil mastermind. He's not particularly threatening or vicious, and boy could Rains play vicious. Where Alicia's concerned, Alex is vulnerable and insecure. When he watches her and Devlin together, his concern is born out of jealousy, not suspicion. His mother is the more imposing villain. From the start, she's skeptical of Alicia's loyalty to their cause and critical of her interest in Alex. He may be the one who sets the trap and discovers Alicia's betrayal, but his mother is the one who takes charge after that. It complicates what should otherwise be a black and white story, the fact that he really does love Alicia and always has. In some ways, his love, or his expression of love, is purer than Devlin's. Inevitably, his feelings for her, and his fear, lead to his ruin. Earlier in the film, we get a taste of just how ruthless his associates are when they swiftly dispose of one of their own who shows signs of weakness. That foreshadows the final scene when Alex is the one who is weak, who's left alone to beg the wolves for mercy. And in spite of everything, one can't help feeling sorry for him. I remember the first time I understood that watching the end of the movie, and I felt so confused and conflicted. Now there are a few signature that's so Hitchcock elements to acknowledge. Notorious features one of his punchy one-word titles. I think it's referring to Alicia's questionable reputation both as the daughter of a spy and as a troubled party girl who may not be reliable. It's kept a little vague, though. There's no title drop. I don't know if you can trust Alicia not to break her cover. She's notorious. I don't think I noticed it before, but several Hitchcock movies besides this one feature a woman driving recklessly or too fast. Other examples, To Catch a Thief, The Birds, Psycho. Even more strangely specific, Cary Grant was in a dangerous car scene in all 4 of his Hitchcock films. This being a Hitchcock movie, it goes without saying that there are some classic camera and editing effects. Wide overhead shots, impressive zooms, the hangover POV effect as Alicia rolls over in bed, the distorted poison effects. By the way, it's not a camera trick or a Hitchcock trademark, but I can't not mention that Claude Rains had to have some vertical assistance for his scenes with Ingrid Bergman. She was famous for her statuesque height, and while technically at 5'7", Claude Rains was only a couple inches shorter than her, if you make allowances for the heels she was probably wearing, it just wouldn't look right for him to be significantly shorter than her, so they strategically filmed them sitting down, or on stairs, or from an angle, and in one scene, yes, they had him walk up a ramp that brought him to a more even level, so it wouldn't be ridiculous when they embraced. Bergman's costumes were designed by frequent Hitchcock collaborator Edith Head, who helped enhance the glamour of many of his leading ladies. There are 2 outfits that are especially eye-catching: Alicia's zesty party girl ensemble with the bare midriff, and the simple evening gown she wears during some of the film's most intense scenes. Hitchcock also heavily used close-ups on certain items to magnify their significance and up the mood. There's something sinister about this teacup, so enhance that by following the teacup across the room. Have the teacup in the foreground of the shot. Keep that teacup ever present. The suspense of the situation comes from the fact that we know what's in the teacup, but Alicia doesn't, so we're going out of our minds wanting her to figure out what's going on. Hitchcock loved to do stuff like that. In my opinion, the last act of Notorious is the best part. The first half of the film develops the relationship and then hurls the characters into the conflict. The second half is where things really heat up, starting with the party where Alicia and Devlin want to sneak away to look for the MacGuffin in the wine cellar, while Alex, the jealous husband, watches them like a hawk. And from that escalation point straight on to the end, the tension and suspense are crackling. I really like this movie, obviously. I've watched it multiple times, and I seem to get something new out of it each time. I especially enjoy Claude Rains, who, well, okay, I do love in almost anything, but I feel like his character is key to the film's morally gray tone. I will say that I don't consider Notorious one of my top favorite Hitchcock films. There are other ones that I love more. If it's your favorite, I would love to know what gives it the edge for you. Is it the way it seamlessly weaves together a spy thriller and a dark romance? Is it the winning star power of Ingrid Bergman and Cary Grant, with Grant playing very much against type? Is it the moral dilemma? I'd love to know. So feel free to comment below with your thoughts and feelings on this movie. I look forward to reading them. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be back next week with another review. Thanks for watching.